Hey there, I'm Jason, and I'm going to do a little walkthrough of my general purpose Helix patch that I just call Worship Board. And I'll get into the details of it in a sec, but first, let's just jump into the sounds. I'm going to do a little bit of limited singing so you can kind of see where I am in certain songs. For the most part, I'm going to leave it to the guitar sounds, all right? So here we go. God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time, with no point of reference. Spoke to the dark and fleshed out the Well, so there are some of the sounds to some probably familiar songs to you. I'm going to walk through the board and just kind of step by step, try to be relatively quick, give you some sound samplings as I go. Hopefully you dig this. It's meant to be an all-purpose worship board. Of course, you can make individual patches for songs. I don't have the time to do that myself. And when I'm leading, I'm also singing. I'm the one doing that. And so I'm playing rhythm, not lead. And so I have to have just kind of one board I'm really, really familiar with. So you'll notice first, I lay this thing out the same way I would an actual like physical pedal board, right? So top right, I'm coming in with the compressor, and then I'm going through the chain. Have an amp drive that it just kind of flips between these two different stages. Then down to my most used pedals, which are going to be my distortions, my dotted eighth, and the Adrian, which is like a Boss thing. I'll get to that in a second, as well as a reverb. Some lesser used delays, and an ambient setting at the top there. So here's just a clean sound on my neck pickup, which is in this case I'm on a Reverend double agent, and so I've got a humbucker on the bridge and a P90 here on the neck, and so I've got a lot of versatility. It also has this bass roll off knob. Love this guitar, super versatile. But here's just nice clean G. My middle pickups. Final is the old humbucker here. So that's just clean sounds. I've got a little bit of a reverb. It's an always on. You hear that? It's a plate verb. It's always on. And I've got a couple of other reverb stages here going on. But going through the chain here, at the top I've got a compressor. Oh, I just knocked my my tripod. I'm going to have to be careful to kind of work my feet around this thing and not hit the tripod out of the way. So I have an always on compressor, which doesn't do a whole lot, but it just gives a little more sustain, a little bit more drive to hitting the amp. And then when I click this guy here awkwardly around the tripod with my heel, oh gosh, come on now. There we go. It flips off that deluxe compressor and flips on a much heavier, I believe it's based off the SP compressor. So if I really hit the chord, you can hear how squashed it is. It's great for just doing. When you want a ton of sustain, or you want to pick, or even finger pick. you want it to really still come through in the mix. That's a great little thing to switch between these two compressors. And then I've got 2 amp stages here. In the Love Shines intro, I had that on, even though, you know, here on my neck pickup. Can really hear it more on the it's a little bit more kick, right? A little bit more crunch, a little more breakup. And then my favorite distortion is this clone, I forget what they call it, Minotaur, I think, right? So that's not a worship song. I shouldn't play that. I just love this tone though. So that's that one. And then got the old Timmy for the... You want to hear something ring out forever and ever? Crank all 3 of them on. Get this compressor. It's gonna be a minute. Also a good way to get feedback, which would have started if I would have let it continue. It would have started feeding back. Especially you have a speaker or a monitor going down below. So love the combination of all of these. Gives you a lot of different stages of breakup, especially when you're popping between the two, or your pickup, whatever pickup styles you have. And then to the delays. So standard dotted eighth. It's a vintage. It's got a little bit of dirt to it, but it's still pretty straightforward. And then I've got a quarter that I can throw on there that's a tape. It's got a little more dirt to it, a little more modulation to it. And it's kind of going down, what is it, series, parallel, I don't know, whatever. It's not in the same line. I forget the technical terms. The point is, one's not affecting the other. Like they're delaying independent of each other. And you can hear that panning back and forth if you're listening through monitors or in-ears or something like that. It's stereo panned. Speaking of stereo panned, I never even hit the cabs, did I? The cabs are so important. And I'm splitting mine left and right. Pretty subtle. You're not going to hear it. It sums really well to mono. I didn't want something super spread. Otherwise, it would just not work when it was summed quite as well. But you can hear it. If I throw on the Memory Man, or I think Line 6 calls it the Elephant Man, if you saw that light up on the screen there, that's only going on the right channel. A little bit of a slap back, not much decay at all. And it's only coming with the right side. So that gives a little bit more stereo spread as well. But then this, oh man, I love this one. It's based off the Boss DM2. I never had one of those, but I had a DD20 back in the day. And it just had something about its tape delay, or maybe it was the analog, I don't remember which one, but you could really dial in this modulation, and it just had this great effect to it. I've heard similar from like some of the Strymon pedals and things like that, which I've never been able to own myself, especially since I'm an all-in-one board kind of guy now. But this, I just love this sound. Yes, I love this one. I like when I can use a delay. By the way, sorry for that bad note I hit there a second ago. I'm just messing around. When I can use a delay instead of a reverb and still get a lot of that modulated effect and ambient almost kind of sound. But I do have another reverb here. I call it the moon reverb. I don't know why. I know that physics doesn't work that way. There's no reverb on the moon. I just picture all these mountainous caverns echoing, and it just sounds all spacey. Again, I know there's no reverb on the moon. Okay, don't judge me for my physics. So if I just let that ring out, but it's got a lot of modulation. It's based in the Ganymede line 6, and I used to call it Morpheus, and I had a lot more of that modulation at the end. And it was a little too detuned, a little too funky. The double tank is really good for that one if you're looking to really dial in a good detuned reverb. But I just like this a lot. It rings out. It's got a lot of ambient to it, but you don't lose the attack. So that's the moon reverb. And then finally, by the way, if y'all know how to fix that just happened, where sometimes it doesn't respond, but now it won't do it again. Anyway, let me know in the comments. The ambient verb. This is a glitz, but it's got a auto swell auto swell before it. So again, I'm leading, and so I don't have time I don't have focus, I guess, enough to swell in and out with the volume pedal. If you end up downloading this patch and you don't like that there, just delete that block and that ambient verb will just turn on the glitz, right? But I'll show you, I think I did this in the intro with Waymaker. When you turn them all three on, the Adrian, the moon reverb, and this ambient with the auto swell, it even sounds good with some dirt at the end. And that's it. A lot of different patches on here. You may have noticed that there's a little modulation. It's a vibrato. I don't have a switch for it, so you'd have to throw that into a snapshot somewhere, but it sounds really good when you put it on. Like it's great for Amazing Grace. This is Amazing Grace for some of those little funkier parts in the second verse. Some other things too. But I use it so rarely that I would just throw it on a snapshot instead of actually putting that on a dedicated stomp. So there you have it, y'all. Worshipboard.hb, because this is made for my humbuckers here. And in the download, though, there's also one for single coil that I dialed in with my Telecaster that has Lambertone pickups in it. So they're a little bit hotter. You may have to do some adjustments on the drive, channel volume, things like that. But for the most part, hopefully this is a good all-in-one setup to get you going. That's all for now. Later.